guys, and welcome back to the Aspiring Home Cook. In today's video, we're making some Chana Doce. Now, Chana Doce is a much loved Goan sweet, and you get it in a wide range of textures. You get some that are beautifully soft and melt in your mouth, and the more commercially available ones, which are slightly on the harder side. Today we're making the slightly softer one because that's what I like, and I find that that's one of the easiest to make too. We're going to start off with 1 cup of Chana Dal. Now this is hulled and split chickpeas, and this is easily available in most grocery stores nowadays. So the first thing we're going to do is start off by passing this through some cold running water a couple of times just to clean that up a bit. Once you've washed out the Chana Dal, add sufficient water to cover all of it and leave a little space like I've done here. You're going to let the lentils soak for about 2 to 3 hours. Once your lentils have had the time to soak, you'll notice that they've expanded a little in volume as well. All we're going to do now is drain this water, pass it through some fresh running water once again, and we're ready to cook it up. I'm using my pressure cooker to cook this dal today. You just use as much water as you need to cook them through till they're nice and soft. You don't want the lentils to be al dente. You want them to cook through and turn a little mushy. At the same time, you don't want to add too much water to your pan. If you don't have a pressure cooker, you can cook this on a stovetop in a pot with sufficient water and let this cook till it's nice and soft. So I'm just going to pop in my Chana Dal into my pressure cooker. To this, I'm going to add about 2 cups of water, which should be enough to cook it through. Now, every pressure cooker differs, so follow your manufacturer's instructions to ensure you're cooking your lentils through. Now, it's very important to season the lentils, though we won't season it as much as we typically would for a savory dish. So I've put about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt in here. And now all that's left to do is pop the lid on, and we're going to cook this till the lentils have completely cooked through. After the lentils cook through, it's important to let it cool so that we can grind that up. While we're waiting for that to happen, we can prep the rest of our ingredients. I'm going to start with a few cardamom pods. In here I've got somewhere between 6 to 8 cardamom pods, and we're just going to crack them open. We're using the seeds. Now, how much cardamom you need to add will depend on how potent or how fresh your cardamom pods are. Some of them tend to be more fragrant and more flavorful than others, so you can adjust the quantity of the cardamom to suit your liking. Once you've got all the seeds out, you're just going to grind that to a powder. I'm just using a mortar and pestle to do that. I find that that's the easiest and the quickest way to do it. And once you've achieved a powder-like consistency, you're just going to set this aside for use later on. I managed to get about half a teaspoon's worth of cardamom powder, and that's what I'm going to use today. Now we're going to prep our surface to spread and cut our doce on. I'm just using a square cake tin. You can use a thali if you've got one, or any flat tray or flat surface will work well. Flip it over because this makes it easier to cut through to the edges and take those pieces of doce out once everything has set. I'm going to grease this lightly with a little bit of clarified butter or ghee to make sure that none of the sweet sticks to the surface. Once that's done, you can set this aside for use later. Let's take a look at all the ingredients you're going to need for the sweet today. This is our boiled Chana Dal that has cooled down a little. I've got 1 coconut grated. Over here, I've got about 2 cups of sugar. Now, sugar is a matter of preference, and if you'd like, you can drop the level of sweetness a little when you're making your doce. This is our cardamom powder that we had prepped earlier, and I've got about a tablespoon of ghee here. Now, we're going to start by grinding some of our ingredients first. I'm going to grind the grated coconut to a nice smooth paste. You can use a little water to help the process. I'm in fact going to use the reserved liquid from cooking the dal. Again, remember, less is more in this case. Just add only as much as you need, because the more water that goes into the recipe, the longer you'll have to cook it off when you're making the doce. If you've seen my previous Christmas sweet videos, you will recognize this pan. This is what I use for all of my sweets. It's a nice heavy bottom stainless steel pan and works absolutely beautifully for making most of these Goan sweets. The wider surface area drops the cooking time drastically. So All I'm going to do is put that ground coconut directly into this pan. Our next step is to grind our chana dal or our lentils. I'm going to put it in that same blender jar. You don't have to worry about cleaning it up because everything is going to be mixed in that pan eventually. And I'm just going to use a little more of that reserved liquid from cooking the lentils to help grind this into a paste. Once everything is nice and smooth, like you can see here, we're just going to add this to the pan. Next, you're going to add in the sugar. And I'm going to use a wooden spoon today with a long handle. This helps prevent burns when the sweet is cooking, when the mix starts jumping. All you're going to do is stir everything together to combine it as best you can. And once that's done, place it on some medium heat and let it start cooking. In the initial stages, you can use a medium heat to cook the sweet, but as it starts thickening off, remember to lower your heat and continue cooking on a medium-low setting. Now, at times you will find that this liquid tends to jump while it's boiling and bubbling away. If that's getting hard to manage, I would recommend lowering the temperature a little. And as an option, you can always use an oven mitt to protect your hand from the splashing. Now, all that's left to do is let this cook off. There's a lot of patience involved. So remember to keep this cooking on a medium heat, stirring constantly. Don't leave this unattended. Make sure that you scrape down the sides and the bottom edges of the pan as well. Once the sugar has melted and everything has warmed through and mixed well, I would recommend carefully tasting a little bit of this mix to check and see whether you need to add more sweetness. I found that my mix needed a little more seasoning, so I'm going in with a little more salt at this stage, but the sweetness was just right, so I haven't added any more sugar. You can add more sugar if you feel the need to at this point. And you're going to continue stirring everything and cooking it down slowly. After cooking this mix on a medium heat for 15 minutes, this is what it looks like. You can see that it has considerably thickened and is now starting to come together. This sweet is at about the halfway mark now, so continue cooking on a medium heat, and at this point, if you feel the need to, you can lower the heat a little bit to make it more manageable. This is what everything looks like after I've cooked it off for about 25 minutes, so 10 minutes since we last checked in. You can see that the sweet has started leaving the sides of the vessel. It's not quite done yet, but this is a great time to add in that cardamom powder and the clarified butter or the ghee. Stir everything through to mix it well. If you've been cooking it on a medium heat till this stage, I would strongly recommend dropping the heat level to a medium-low at this point, just to make sure that your doce doesn't burn. And this is what my doce looks like after about 30 minutes of overall cooking time. 32 minutes to be precise. Now these timelines are just to guide you along. A lot will depend on the consistency, the amount of water in your pan, the thickness of the pan, the surface area that you have available, as well as the level of heat that you've used to cook your doce. I'm happy with this at this point. Like you can see, it's forming into a ball really well. I'm going to turn the heat off and immediately turn this out onto my greased surface. Now remember to work quickly while this is still warm because it cools down really fast and gets a little crusty and is a little harder to manage once it's cool. I'm going to add a little more ghee or clarified butter to the back of a flat spatula like you can see here. You can use the back of a spoon if you'd like as well. And using that spatula, we're just going to flatten everything down and make sure it's of an even thickness. Once it has spread fairly well, I'm going to now switch to a rolling pin to make sure I get an even finish on the top. And I'm going to lightly grease that rolling pin with some more clarified butter. And very gently, I'm going to spread this out and make sure that it's nice and even and tidy the sides as I go along. Once you're happy with how everything looks, set this aside and leave it to cool down and firm up a little bit. In addition to that 9.5-inch square, I've also got a little bit left over that I've spread on a little in a similar way. Once your chana doce has cooled off, you're ready to cut it up. Remember to use a nice sharp knife while you're doing this, and it's also extremely important to grease that knife using a little more clarified butter so that you get nice clean cuts. Now you can cut it to any shape and size. Today I'm going to cut mine in the classic diamond shape. And to achieve that, I'm just starting by cutting this dough into some strips. Once that's done, you're going to turn your pan and continue cutting. Now again, you don't really have to cut these pieces the way I'm doing it. You can cut this dough into any shape or size that you choose to. And once you're done cutting it all up, this is how easily it comes apart. It doesn't stick to the base or the sides. The pieces of those have formed really well. It's nice and soft, just the way we like it. Again, remember, if you like a harder version of the dose, all you have to do is let that cook off a little longer. And that's our beautiful, gorgeous, delicious chana doce ready to serve. Let's have a look at the pieces now. You can see I've got nice, clean edges on my doce, and it's a beautiful consistency made just the way we like it. And guys, that's how simple it is to make the good old chana doce at home. I hope you enjoyed today's recipe. If you did, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and share it with family and friends. I hope you have the opportunity to try this recipe out real soon. If you do, don't forget to let me know what you thought of it. Also, if you're new here and you haven't done so already, please subscribe to my channel so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. As always, I'll leave a link to the complete recipe down in the description box below for you. Thank you so much for watching today. I'll see you really soon with another delicious recipe. So till then, take care. Bye.